Welcome to Film on Tape, a free audio library for creatives in film and television. My name is Misha Calvert, and I've worked as an actor, writer, director, and producer for many decades. I had so many questions when I was first getting started in New York, and I just wanted fast, free answers. That is what this library is for. The work that you do as a creative is so important. I really hope that this library is going to help get your work out there. Film on Tape is sponsored by Vermilion, a coaching and educational company for creatives. You can learn more at clubvermilion.com. Special treat for you here with Allison Kirschner. She is a very well-established casting director in New York, and I had the pleasure of interviewing her on my old podcast with my co-host Brett Epstein. It was one of our best performing episodes, so I think that you are going to get a lot out of this and really enjoy the conversation. She's just absolutely prolific. She did King of Staten Island, she did Bros, The Bubble, many, many other credits. In comedy, she is a titan of casting. And she also worked with Universal Pictures, HBO, with Judd Apatow, and Comedy Central. So she's really just got this enormous range of experience and depth of comedic casting understanding. Oh, she also teaches acting and occasionally teaches casting director workshops, so you can look out for those. Okay, here is casting director Allison Kirschner. Enjoy.
I would say that from a very young age, I knew I wanted to be an actress. And I was like, I'm going to go to theater school. I'm going to take acting classes. So I ended up going to Penn State for a BA in theater. If you're doing a BA and not a BFA, you actually have to take on another double major. So I ended up minoring in film and media studies. So that's kind of like where I started learning about other aspects of the industry besides just acting. And it's actually kind of funny because my acting teacher, it was like maybe my sophomore, junior year of college. And she was like, I could see you being a casting director. And I was like, okay. I realized, maybe I should intern and start to learn other aspects of the industry. So I ended up interning in a couple different areas. One was at HBO, and I worked in their documentary department. So really, I was learning about producing. And then I ended up getting my first internship one summer while I was in college at Liz Lewis Casting in New York. And I was fortunate enough to actually be living right outside Manhattan. I'm from New Jersey. So like my summers were great because I was able to just easily access New York for internships in between my years of college at Penn State. I remember working at Liz Lewis and thinking, I really like this. Like it kind of satisfied both parts of my brain, like both the creative and the business side. And I started really enjoying it. And I ended up doing a couple more internships after that with Mikey Hybrun at the CW, with Bonnie Finnegan and Stephen Jacobs on, I think they were working on Royal Pains at the time. And so I did like 3 internships and I was like, this is what I want to do. I just loved it. I loved every aspect of it. And although I loved acting too, I think I just didn't want it enough. It's not the easiest of industries to navigate, as everybody knows. It's no secret. And I always tell actors, like, you need to want it enough, to go through the ups and downs of it. And I didn't. I really fell in love with casting, and I felt like that was my home. And it was ultimately. I just it kind of just happened that way. And from there, I got my first job with Stephanie Holbrook. We worked on a pilot together, and she gave me my first job. And then I just started working for different casting directors all over the city. I worked for Patricia DeSerto. I worked for Bowling Misha. I worked for Ann Golder. And then I eventually landed with Gayle, and I haven't left since. And it's been 8, 9 years with Gayle, more, 10.
Wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I have a question about that. And so I'm Misha. Hi.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
It's so nice to meet you.
Allison, I'm also a former actor. I still act from time to time, but so I made the move from lifetime in on stage and then in film and TV acting into filmmaking and show running. So I know that trajectory well of when just acting is like no longer the thing. But we have a lot of actors in our audience, and I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about how did you know it was the right time to move on? Did you still have any lingering desire to act, or just navigating that transition for yourself?
It's hard to pinpoint an exact moment that it happened, but I think it was very early on. I, to be honest, really hadn't even gone into trying acting yet. I didn't get an agent. I didn't audition. I've never had an audition. It was like, it really happened before I even pursued it. So there was never a moment that I was like, all right, I'm giving up. I'm done. Like, I actually never even started. And I just think because I just knew myself well enough to know that there's a very big business side of me in terms of like, I am creative, but I would say I'm very, very much more, if not a little more than 50% business. I just realized once I started actually being in the day-to-day of casting during these internships that I was like, okay, I could be on the other side of that camera. Do I want to be? And then I thought, no, these people are more talented than me. I saw the talent that was coming in and it was incredible. And that's when I thought, okay, I don't know if this is something I really do need to pursue, but I do want to do something in this industry. And this seems like the perfect fit for me.
That's why there's not a bitter bone in your body, Allison. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, it's not like you really were like, oh, I'm giving up my dream.
Right.
Like, it wasn't like that. You found a better fit that makes you happy, it seems.
Yeah, it was like I never even started that route. But it worked out because I did go to theater school. I learned everything about, acting, and that helps me relate to actors in the room and really know, how you guys are trained. And because I was trained the same way. So it's good. It actually worked out in a way.
I mean, Misha, she's so right. Like, relating to actors, it really is one of my favorite offices to go into. I play so much in my auditions with you and Gayle. It's playful, It's creative, it's almost like oddly mellow in there. And that's special because there could be so many things that could not lead to that. But the way that you and Gayle engage with the actors brings about calm. You've worked with a lot of offices. Did you approach Gayle? Did she approach you? And what makes you two a team that works so well together?
Well, I met Gayle through Ann Golder. I was working with Ann on a couple projects, and then Ann came to me and said, oh, I'm going to be co-casting with this woman, Gayle Keller. It was a pilot for FXX. It was called Man Seeking Woman, and she's like, maybe you.
I love that show. I love that show.
Oh my god, it was amazing. That pilot was so funny, and Simon Rich is so brilliant. And so I got to work with Gayle and Ann, and that's how I got to meet Gayle. And then it just so happened that like just everything aligned where she needed another assistant on another project, and I just kept going on the next project and going on the next project, and then 10 years later I just never left. I just wanted to always be there and work with her because I do think she's so brilliant and so amazing, and I love working with her, and she's taught me so much, and she's given me so many opportunities, and really has given me confidence to really take things to the next level, and moving up to an associate and then now moving up to casting director with her. She's been there the whole way. And I mean, Brett, she's amazing. She's just so...
she's amazing. Amazing. And I'm lucky to have you as allies.
Aww.
You believe... It's like a warm human relationship of like, I respect the F out of what you do. You respect the F out of what I do. That's where I feel like it's based on.
You are funny. I mean, that's the thing everyone should know too, is I work basically on comedy. So that's a huge thing for me. If someone's funny and really great when it comes to improv, and
So Allison, on that note, looking at your incredible resume of comedy, not only one of my favorite shows, Man Seeking Woman, we've got Louie, Inside AMY SCHUMER, Betty, Flatbush Misdemeanors, more recently. You are a master of comedy casting. What kind of recommendations or tips or guidelines can you give to our audience when they're going in for comedy auditions to help them amplify and, really knock it out of the park with comedy?
I think it's all about confidence. It's about coming in and really making your choices and being confident behind your choices. Being willing to play in comedy. It's about, being really loose and playing off of the reader and the person who's improvising with you, maybe. It's just really about not being afraid to just go for it. It's different in every situation for every project, but I find the people who really nail the comedy are the people that aren't so stuck on the page and over-rehearsed. They're the people who are ready to come and just, let loose and see where the scene goes.
Brilliant. Yeah. That is such good advice.
Mm-hmm. Now, Allison, do you always tell the actors, hey, we encourage and want improv, or do you let them ask you? And, because it's such a major aspect of so many comedy projects.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I get that question all the time. And I feel like we would lead you there. Like a lot of times we'll say, let's do one take on the page and then one take. Let's kind of like, riff a little bit. So like that's usually the case, but then again, there are some times when we have producers saying, maybe don't press too hard on the improv, but then we have other producers who are like, love the improv, so it's kind of just a case by case basis on what we're working on and what producers are responding to. But that's our job, to lead you there. So we will always be transparent with you on whether or not we are looking for improv or we're encouraging it. Nowadays, I know we do a lot of self-tape, so a lot of times I'll put that in the notes too. But, when it comes to comedy, there's definitely a little bit more looseness when it comes to the text. Drama's not like that. It's very much on the page, but comedy, there is a little bit of that leeway, which is nice.
Could you speak a little bit about riffing in between the text versus riffing at the very end and adding a button on?
Oh, it's so interesting because it just depends on how long the scene is and what's going on. And sometimes, I definitely encourage it throughout the entire scene, but then there are times where maybe it can't really be in there and it does need to just be a button. I find like the buttons are usually good for under fives because, you don't want to make too much. Obviously, if it's an under five role, you don't want to bring too much, like make yourself the star of the scene when maybe you're just a cashier in the scene, but maybe a button would kind of give you the little leg up versus maybe someone else, or because it's really funny and it brings our attention to it. Or look, I'm all about improv. I would love it throughout the entire thing if it was my choice, but sometimes it doesn't work with the scene we assign. It really has to work.
I love that case by case.
Yeah.
That's great answer.
And it really must be. Right? It's project dependent. It's the other people must be telling you certain things to tell us that there's so many moving pieces and people's opinions involved in what you do, I feel.
It is. It's all subjective in the end. But really, we're just we're almost like the liaison between you guys and the producer. So we need to make sure that we're conveying the right information in order to get the results we need. So if I have a producer saying, love all the improv, love this, keep it going, like I'm going to keep really encouraging it, But if a producer is saying otherwise, all right, we're going to scale it back a little bit, on the improv. So again, like you said, just case by case.
I am so excited to tell you that I'm launching a brand new slate of classes that are incredibly helpful on my website. Some of the classes include on-camera acting technique and how to self-produce your own film, actor self-care, which is something that nobody talks about, and how to write a feature film in 10 days, which I'm going to teach you how I did it and how you can do it too. And believe me when I say I poured my heart into these courses. Go to clubvermillion.com. I am so excited about this website. I can't wait to work with you.
So, okay, cool. Let's talk a little bit about, life in general. So tell me, Allison, how do you balance the career you have in entertainment with living a healthy, happy personal life with your family in Jersey and being happy human on Earth?
Aren't we all just striving for the perfect balance in life? I feel like that's just what we're all striving for every day of our lives. And
I feel like you found it. So tell us how.
Whatever you say, Allison, we're going to put on t-shirts.
Yeah.
So
okay. I do have to say that I work behind the scenes in the entertainment industry. I'm not on set. So I do have a pretty clear schedule in terms of we start work at 10, we end work around 6-ish. So it's, working someone in the industry who works on set, that's totally different. You're working full days. So I do have that balance. And also, technically I am a freelancer. Therefore, I'm not working every day of the year. There's times where I do a project and it's really busy, and then there's times where it's much slower because I just ended a project and I'm about to start another one in a couple weeks. It is really nice to have that balance where it's like you can go really hard and really in on a project, but you always know there's that light at the end of the tunnel where once all of a sudden everything is cast and then it's just crickets. And then it's like, all right, what's the next project? And it might be some time until that project starts. So there is a big balance because I am a freelancer. And I have a husband and a daughter. She's 3.5 and
adorable. Looks just like her.
She's my little doppelganger. And
they're literally twins, Misha. Twins. twins, blonde twins, so cute.
I mean, Allison looks like she's in college, so I don't know what this talk of a daughter
Oh my gosh,
is. But...
thank you. I feel like I'm aging myself, and I was like, yeah, I've worked in this office 10 years, and then before that. But yeah, no, I'm lucky in the sense that my husband's industry, he runs his own business and private dining company, and his busy season is like December, usually when like holiday parties and everyone that wants to do a party and our industry shuts down in December. Yeah. So it's like, it's really, knock on wood, like worked out that like we're able to really kind of like help each other to like, when we're really busy, to like step in and, but thankfully it's always a struggle to just try to find the perfect, I think, like I said, we're all striving for it. And that's what I try to achieve all the time.
Have you actually been able to work with this is a cheesy question, but some A-list talent like, King of Staten Island, like Pete Davidson, or other celebrities? Did you get to work with them? Did they have to audition? What were they like in the room versus your average kind of working actor?
Right, yeah. Well, with celebrities, they usually don't audition. It's usually an offer-only situation, or they come, they're already attached to the project. So in the case with Pete Davidson, it was his store. I mean, he worked with Judd on that script, so he was already attached to it by the time we were brought on. So
co-creator, yeah.
I was fortunate to be able to work with them, and in terms of, I got to be in the rooms with them when they had callbacks with actors, and that was just an amazing experience, just watching how Judd works with the actors, how sweet Pete was with them. It was beautiful. I loved it. I mean, I loved working on that project. That was one of my favorites for sure.
Wow, that's amazing. I like hearing that other side of Pete Davidson.
No, he's so sweet. He's really tall too. That was the one thing I was surprised when I saw him. I was like, oh, I didn't realize he was that tall. But he was so sweet, so kind with the actors. It was great.
I want to know, is there something about your day-to-day in casting that people would be surprised to hear or may not know about what you do?
I mean, that's a really good question. I'm not auditioning people every day. Like, I think that's maybe something that people would be surprised about. Like, my job just doesn't just entail that. For instance, today, my whole day, I'm just going to be making offers for, like, the last 2 episodes of season 2 of Flappish Misdemeanors. Like, that's my day today, is just making sure I get all the offers out, making sure I close all of them, making sure my assistant gets all the deal memos out, all the contact info to wardrobe, station 12 the people we need to. I mean, that's something that, like, maybe people don't know that, but then a couple weeks ago, I was just auditioning. So my days change depending on where I'm at in the project. And it's not just all day, every day auditioning. There's so many other factors involved in what I do.
That's a very fascinating answer, because I feel like actors, you're also freelance. We kind of forget that. Right? You're with Gayle now, and you may be for a long, long time, but it's project to project freelancing. Do you ever conclude a project and then have doubt, fear, or insecurity about when the next one's going to be? What if you don't know when, Allison, it's going to be, or you and Gayle don't know? What do you do, and how do you feel?
Thank God, I'm going to knock on wood. It's been so busy. I think with all the streaming services now, and there's so much content, I haven't had that fear in years, thank goodness.
Years.
When I started, yes, that was the fear. I was like, I'm going to freelance. This is the thing. Am I going to be able to do it? And yeah, I definitely had months go by where I wasn't working, but then something always came up eventually. But now, in the past, I would say 4 or 5 years, it hasn't been like that. It's been, in fact, a plethora of jobs, thank goodness. But I think that's for all casting directors right now, because there is so much content. So much more content than there's ever been. So thank goodness it's been really busy. It's more about not taking on too many projects and really like making sure I take on the right amount at the right time.
Ooh, I love that. So how do you say no?
Well, it's a no if we just can't take on more work. You can only do so many things at a time. And so there is no like feeling bad by any means, because we just timing wise wouldn't be able to do it. The nice thing about our industry is it's a small industry in a big city. So like we all kind of know each other. So if something doesn't work out in terms of taking on something because we're too busy at the moment, or I'm too busy, I can suggest somebody I know, and we pass along to someone who maybe does want more work at the time.
Seriously, congratulations on the past 4 to 5 years being that busy. That's amazing, and I'm proud of you as your friend.
Thank you. I mean, it's all Gayle. Like, Gayle gets all the projects, and she's amazing with, divvying up the work within our office. We have usually about 2 associates, two or 3 assistants. I have an upcoming project for Universal, and she knows that I've worked with Universal like 2 or 3 times now, so I know their process.
Got you. Okay. And I actually have a follow-up question about, you're telling us it's like 10 to 5, whatever, but I know personally, I see you outside of those hours, right? You could do workshops, you may go see shows. Like, how do you decide how to fill outside normal office hours with more things in arts and entertainment and your career, as opposed to saying, I need that time to myself?
Yeah, I think before I had my daughter, I was very much like booking, theater, workshops, all of that. I think since I've had my daughter, I've very much scaled back on that, and I really limit it to maybe 1 evening a week, if that I would commit myself to something, because I want to make sure I have that balance in life and spend time with my daughter. Also, like we said, I'm busier than I have been in the past couple of years, so if my days are that busy, it's very hard for me physically and mentally to just also be doing a lot of teaching at night or seeing a lot of shows. Even though I love shows, I need to find that balance and make sure that I'm home with my daughter, and that's important to me.
You have this wonderful positivity, Allison. Do you have any other tips for staying in that positivity, or finding a way to channel it and live in that just positive kind of love, light, professional zone?
I think one of my favorite, I can't quote it, but it was from a book I read. All right, so Tina Fey's book, Bossy Pants, if you've read it, she made a comment in it about, because she was going to be writing on SNL or whatever project she was taking on at the time, she was having anxiety about. And she kind of did this mantra to herself saying, well, why can't I do it? Like, why can't I? Like, why can someone else do it, but I can't? Like, just believing in yourself that you have the ability to go for it. So that always stuck with me, because there are times where I have doubts in my mind, and I'm like, am I capable of this? Can I do it? And then I'm like, why can't I versus someone else?
To hear that as a woman of why can't I is so empowering and refreshing.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree. I love that book. I mean, I think Tina Fey's brilliant, and I thought that book really spoke to me. We all have anxieties, but there's no reason, if you love something, why you can't go for it and be successful at it.
Off of that, Allison, just so curious about what could be something that sparks anxiety for you, and then how do you kind of switcheroo it into, I can do it?
That's a really good question, actually.
Or does nothing? Maybe it doesn't anymore. I don't know.
Well, I think those anxieties are actually starting to go away as I'm starting to get more and more years behind me in this industry, because you're constantly learning. And I feel like over the last however many years I've been working, I've learned so much. And I think those anxieties start going away a little more once you're like, oh, okay, now I've been down this road before, and I know how to handle this when it comes to this offer or this deal. And I think moving up, in terms of moving up from assistant to associate, or moving even from associate to casting director on projects, taking on my own projects. I think there were many, many years where I wasn't confident yet to take on my own projects because I didn't have the comfort of Gayle or somebody, Meanwhile, she would have helped answer any questions I had, but it felt like a lot of pressure to take on my own projects. And I think only in the last couple of years, I think it was around when the pandemic hit, was when I started realizing, okay, I'm ready to do this. I feel like I have enough knowledge and growth behind me that I can now start doing my own smaller projects.
There's a lot of actors that I talk to that are trying to find their footing again and find their confidence again after years of fucked upness.
Right.
Do you have any advice for, number one, getting back on the radar of casting directors? Do you recommend cold emails or the networking studios? Or what's the best way to kind of re-enter the industry as an actor? And do you have any tips for just, for actors finding their confidence again?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is important to I always tell actors to just be involved as much as you can, because that's really the only way you're going to get yourself out there. Doing theater, making their own projects, starting their own web series or writing, just connecting with other actors. and just being involved. And I think it's hard given like everything we just went through, but it's really the only way to just get yourself out there. And yes, I said, oh, I don't go to the theater as much. I don't do workshops as much as I used to, but I'm still doing those workshops, you know, every so often. And I am still looking at online at different theater shows and seeing who's in the cast. You know, I might go to one here and there. So I do think it's important to really just get yourself out there and be involved. A tip I always give actors is like, when you have an actor friend or you see another actor that you know well and they're really doing well for themselves, they're booking, they're going auditions constantly, it's never a bad idea to buy them a cup of coffee and pick their brain on how they got where they are right now. And you're actually flattering them by asking to talk to them. You're, you know, sitting down with them for a little bit to just kind of understand how they got to where they are. And I think that's incredible knowledge that you can't discount. Like when you see somebody like that and you're comfortable enough to ask them if you could have a quick coffee for like 20 minutes.
It also takes away some of that competitive edge when you're actually going to them, wanting information from them, working alongside them, as opposed to in the background being competitive or bitter about other people's success.
Right.
Which could be a dangerous road for actors.
Totally. And it's flattering. They would be flattered.
Yeah, it's touching. They look at you and say, you're a success. I want to know more about you. I think it's great.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Well, any final thoughts, Allison, as we wrap up? We've got a busy work day, so we don't want to keep you too long, but, you know, any advice for nailing your auditions and kind of just being the best you can be in the room?
I think just my advice is just keep growing in your craft, keep learning, keep being involved, keep, you know, being inspired by whatever that is that inspires you, watching shows, watching theater, writing, be creative. But yeah, my advice is just keep growing in your craft, because we noticed that. There's been so many actors who've come into my room over the years, and I've seen them grow over the years in their abilities, and it doesn't go unnoticed.
That's so encouraging. we sometimes it's like, you know, acting into a void. So to hear that you see actors, you see us, is just incredibly uplifting.
And that the relationship is so ongoing. It's years in the making.
Yeah, and that's where you see the growth, and that's where you see, you know, them go. You just see actors in all phases where they're, you know, really busy and working like crazy, and then times where maybe it's not as busy for them, and you see all the different phases they're going through. Yeah. But just keep growing, keep going in that direction.
I really enjoyed that episode. Oh God, she's just so funny and so personable. So I hope that you got as much out of it as I did. Even listening back the second time, I was like relearning things about the casting and production process. And I'm just really grateful that you tuned in to have this conversation with us. Thank you so much, and I will see you next week.